Hi, I'm Melanie from Parenting High Schoolers, and I'm here today to talk to you about this book, How to Do It Now Because It's Not Going Away. I loved this book. It's not that long, and it is full of such great information. So it's written by a gal, Leslie Josel, and she had a son diagnosed with ADHD as a young child, and she struggled to figure out, like, how am I going to help him? How is he going to be successful? And she has created this whole program. It's called Order Out of the Chaos, which all of the things that are on her website. I've been following her forever, ever since I heard about her, and I highly recommend that you check her out. I'll put links to both her website and this book below, and so that you can check it out for yourself. But I have a quick sort of summary of what I read. And obviously, if you read it, if you get this book, there's so much more information. And she's even got a link to where you can go to get, so like there are some charts in here. For instance, this chart, you can't really see it very well there. She's got a link to where you can download all these things that she's got listed in her book. So I wanted to say that before we got started. How to do it now because it's not going away. Procrastination, I think this quote is maybe from her son, is an opportunity to do something. It's also an opportunity not to do it. And I'm the queen of procrastination. I'll think, oh, I have so much time. Or for me, a lot of times, rather than it being that, I am either super overwhelmed by just the thought of getting started, or I think I don't want to start because I want it to be perfect. I think those are three ways a lot of kids and adults procrastinate. So let's talk about all of that. We all do it. It doesn't make us bad. It doesn't make us lazy. It's just a part of who we are as humans. Let's think of some other reasons that I wrote down. She had a whole chart. So I picked the ones that I felt like as a teacher of middle school, elementary, and preschool, as well as a mom, these are the things that I've seen the most of. Overwhelm. This for me is the hugest one. Emotion, like being afraid, and we'll talk about that later. Disorganized. Time management or the lack thereof. Distractions, perfectionism. These are all ways that create procrastination. First, so I've got 8 tips that you need to think about, or 8 topics. Number 1, first, deal with this time issue. Your child needs to know how to read an analog clock. That's the one that has 1, 2, 3, all the way to 12. They need to know how to read and tell time. If they don't, you need to teach them, because this is a huge piece of knowing how to break down time. And Leslie is a huge proponent for this. I've always said, when I taught middle school, I'm like, okay, we're going to learn how to tell the time, because my kids would say, well, when is class over? And I would tell them, and they were like, but how many minutes is that? So I would teach math at the beginning of my English class at the beginning of every year. They need to know how much actual time they have to study. And they need to know how much actual time they have before something is due. And we'll get to that in a second. Homework. This is the second thing. Look at a schedule, and you need to do the homework every single time. I've got this in other videos. As a teacher, we don't just give us, maybe there are exceptions, but in general, I only gave homework if it was something I felt like my kids needed more practice at. And I tried to limit the amount that I gave. And in some cases, I didn't give any. I would give classwork instead. But do the work, whatever it is required. Set a timer. So that's another great tool to have for studying. Set a timer, I suggest it not being on the phone. I suggest it being actual timer that you would set in your kitchen. So say for 15 minutes. For 15 minutes, I'm going to do the first 5 problems, or however many there are, and just sit down and just do it. Now, you could maybe get more than 5 done. Maybe you don't get 5 done, but you've started. That is the key to procrastination, is actually getting started. So we'll talk about that again in a second. Study skills. This is a big one. They don't really teach study skills anymore. And that's something that I've, again, had to teach my own children in this house and my kids that I teach in the classroom. Studying doesn't mean, I'm reading this book and I'm looking at it, or I've got these notes and I'm looking at them. That's not studying. Studying is taking the information that you have and underlining it. Or, oh, I'm going to put a big square around this and put stars because I know this is on the test. Or taking a highlighter and highlighting a vocabulary word that I need to know this for the test. Or if you're starting a paper, maybe color code it. So you got your title, and then you're going to write 3 paragraphs. And so maybe have the title for each paragraph, and each one is in like green, blue, red, so that as you find notes and you add information, you can have a sheet of paper where all that information is, and color code it, so then you can just fill it in. These are study skills, and it's just a way to study. Cover your study sheet for the test and quiz yourself. Have your mom quiz you. Use Quizlet. Our kids are so into all the apps and everything. Quizlet is a great way. And a lot of times if you look, there's already a quiz about the test that you have. You just need to make sure that all the information your teacher or your child's teacher wants them to know is in that one. Make flashcards. There's all kinds of ways to interact with material, but that's what studying is. It's interacting with the material, not just reading it. Write it down. This is the fourth important thing. Make a checklist of all the things that need to be done. Your child cannot study for anything if they've got 50 things on their mind. So they need to do a brain dump. Okay, I know I need to, mom asked me to take out the trash. I'm gonna write that down. Take trash out. Tonight I have to shower. Maybe that's something that your child doesn't do every night. I take a shower. I have a test on Friday that I need to study for test on Friday in English. Everything needs to be written down. There's a phone call I need to make for my job. Make phone call for job. Whatever it is, they need to make a list of what it is they need to do, and in the form that it is they need to do it. So don't just say make phone call. Be specific. Break it all down and then put it in order. If it's something that's going to be done today and it's due today or tomorrow, I guess, do that first. So make the list, do the brain dump, and then put it in order of how it needs to be accomplished. Use a planner. Leslie, Josel, her planner is awesome. I linked it in a couple of my blog posts, and I'll put a link below so that if you want to look at it, you can. It's set up for kids that are super distracted and unorganized, and it's amazing. Plan extra time for the unexpected. Grandma might decide to drop by for dinner, and then that's a 2-hour block of time that you weren't planning on. So always over plan the time you're going to need to study, because you never know if something's going to come up. Number 5, don't count on remembering everything. So write it down. Just like I just said in number 4, write everything down. Number 6, organize. Have a folder or a binder or some kind of section in a binder for each class. Now, when your teen gets home, maybe in the beginning, if they've not been taught this, you show them, okay, today's paper goes in the front. And then, I always had my students work from the back to the front, because that would be the most recent. And then my other advice would be, as they finish a quarter or a semester, put all that in a folder, but keep it, because maybe there's a cumulative final at the end of the year. Don't get rid of any school stuff until the end of the year. So just have folders, stick them in a drawer. Maybe the teacher said you didn't turn something in, and it was last quarter, but it can go to first semester's grade. Look through your folder, find it. Distractions. Set a timer. Don't plan, you need to plan for breaks and for fun, but your teen needs to work in like 20 to 30 minute chunks of time. I'm going to work, I'm going to get started, or I'm going to figure out what I need to do. I'm going to make a list. I'm going to break down this assignment for the next 15 minutes, and then I'm going to take a 15-minute break. And then I'm going to work on the first section of this assignment, or I'm going to do the 10 vocabulary words for the next 20 minutes. And then the next 20 minutes might be a different subject, and then take another break. So I would work in chunks of 20 to 30 minutes, because more than that is too much. And we get distracted. We distract ourselves. Have that timer and use it. Motivation. Guess what? You won't want to do the work tomorrow. This is something I have found when I wrote my book, which I have a great book too. Or when you are, like when I would grade papers, I would just dread it. So I would make myself sort out the classes, and then I would say, okay, I'm going to grade for 30 minutes. And most of the time I would finish the whole class, or at least the majority of it. And then that was done, and I could check it off my list. And that's another thing, is make a checklist, because it feels so good to check things off. And I mean, list them in the tiniest portion possible so you have more to check off. That's key for me. Don't have your teen not think about the final product or that test that's in 2 weeks. Have them break it down into today and tomorrow, I'm going to really focus on vocabulary. Okay, the next couple days after that, I'm going to look up all the important people and the dates. Break it down for them, help them see it in little pieces, which will add up to the end. And then each time you add a category, like maybe the next time you're working on who were, the important battles, say for Civil War, then you're also going to go back and real quick look at the vocabulary words. Do I still remember those? And then you're real quick going to look at the dates, like what happened in 1821. Like I know I need to know that one, or that's the one I keep forgetting. Those are all ways to add on to the end. If your teen is writing a paper, then today is just the intro. It's not due till Friday, it's Monday. So Monday night, I'm going to write the intro and maybe think of the 3 supporting details. And then the next day, I'm going to really write all of the first full paragraph and maybe part of the second. And then the next day, add on. And so by Thursday, you're editing it and writing the final draft. So break it all up. Also, take breaks. Breaks are not bad as long as your child sets a timer and doesn't get caught up into like the next Netflix binge. You can turn off that. It's a setting, which I did not know, but Leslie talks about that. It's an automatic setting in your TV or in the app, the Netflix or Amazon. It'll just automatically show you the next show, but you can turn that off. I highly recommend doing that. As long as your child takes breaks and knows that they have to go back to work, and this is same for me, like I'll do something that I'm dreading or not wanting to do, and then I give myself, like I'll read a chapter in the book that I'm reading. That's, for me, that's a reward. But then I make myself close the book and go back. And sometimes I switch, like if I were a student, I might not go back to English, but I'd move on to math and then just keep circling around so that you don't ever get tired of what is happening. In the beginning, also when your child is writing down like what is required or, how they're going to do it, if there are any questions in the beginning in the first 2 or 3 days, have them ask their teacher. Email the teacher and find out so that they don't get to the day before it's due or the day before the test and they don't understand something. This is something they need to do in the beginning. Remember that in order to finish, you have to start. Baby steps. We recommend chunking into the tiniest portions possible. In this book, How to Do It Now, because it is not going away. It's not. Get started. Thumbs up for me. Follow my channel or subscribe to my channel below, and I'll see you next week.